you again. So, welcome everyone to another episode of Flip the Script. Me and Cameron and Chris, he's back in the back somewhere. By the way, Flip the Script, SCRIPT.
No T.
No T, that's right. SCRIP without the T.
That's it, yeah.
You think I know that by now. Okay. But of course, you know, that was your mom's idea, and I love it. All right, so getting on with that. Hey, we want to go over a little skinny that I saw on Fox News last night when Robert Kennedy was speaking before Congress. And I think this was on 9/3/25, talking about they were trying to give him an earful on some of the happenings at the CDC, where he's been letting a few people go, right? And so Congress decided they were going to opine, and I think they got the worst end of the deal from what I saw. So found some interesting stats, though, that we might want to chat up, people. All right. Here's one that I found. Now, this, of course, was the CDC, and this kind of gives us an idea why he may be going where he's going with this. So apparently, accused of destroying data on vaccine clinical outcomes, they've uncovered some cases of this. One such accusation was showing that black boys in particular, getting the early measles vaccine, had higher cases of autism. Now, the sad thing was, though, is that frequently the data in these cases were being destroyed, and sometimes as short as a 4-day period. So, something going on there we don't know. Interesting. I found that very interesting.
And is that something that RFK said? Did he bring that up to them?
Yeah, these are some of the things that they're starting to uncover. But
he said that to them? Or was that something that they brought up after?
Now, this was stuff that the show host Jesse Waters read off. Okay. This was him. Some of these quotes are coming from him. So I'm sure they took this from excerpts of the program. Here's another interesting one. So in 2024, it showed that over 76 million kids received the mandatory hepatitis vaccine, even though children have approximately a 1 in 7 million chance of dying from this mandatory vax. So, again, and all Kennedy's really trying to say here is that let's just look deeper into some of these things. Okay, let's look at the data, because it all seems to be one-sided. And those of us who are in, the healthcare profession, we agree, and it's just time, for the other side to be heard. So this is what he was sort of getting at when he was having it one-on-one with Congress. And he goes on into a couple more things I found extremely interesting. And let's just start with this one. Over the past 50 years, the CDC and the American pharmaceutical funded politicians, which is what he mentioned about how some of these politicians were receiving, I think the lowest was 1 million, one guy in particular 4 million, 2 million. And even Bernie Sanders gets up and says, hey, we know it, okay? Everybody's getting their pockets filled by Big Pharma. What's the deal here? And then he tries to accuse Kennedy of it, and Kennedy's like, I don't know what you're talking about here, pal. Nobody funded any of my campaign with pharmaceutical money, for example.
I mean, he ran on the premise against it, so that was kind of a stupid thing for Sanders to say.
So here was his question, and this is why he says, okay, look, all right, either way you want to look at it, CDC, okay, Congress, whatever, who's responsible for the last 50 years? That was the question, which went on to go here. Here we go. America's chronic disease epidemic of obesity, diabetes, autism, and you asked me about this, autonomic disorders, right? Okay. Mental illness. These things have exploded over the last 50 years and blown the roof off, all during whose watch? Now, which would be the CDC and our government. Now, this is emphasized by Robert Kennedy during the podcast. Goes on to say this: testosterone in men is down. Birth rates overall down. Happiness is at an all-time low. People just in general. And of course, with that, antidepressants, they're at an all-time high, right? And so the question is here, or as he puts it, all we're asking is why. Can somebody answer that one for us? That's not a tough question, right? I mean, that's logical. That deserves an answer, don't we? So, does it have anything to do with food and drug industry? Can somebody answer that one? Yeah, I think I can, right? But of course,
it has to do with something.
Well,
it's like you can't just ignore a problem because you don't want to have to.
Again. So, I mean, so we go on and we look at that, think about this. Here's the other thing that blew me away. Do this number right here, buddy. Why are we spending, this is the question asked by Jesse, why are we spending $1 trillion a year on chronic disease? 1 trillion chronic disease. A lot of money, yeah. Right? It's the most expensive thing in the American budget now. We talked about that in that one podcast. Remember, we talked about the GDP being 18.
Yeah.
What did we say? 1980, it was 8%. So you had.
I think it went up like 10% in Yeah,
exactly. Over that,
and all the Fortune 500 companies, I think out of the top money. 10, I think you had 5.
Connect the dots, brother. Right? Yeah. Connect the dots. I mean, sometimes it looks and smells, Jack. It's what it is, right? I mean, come on. I mean, how ignorant do we have to be? How much farther are you going to dumb us down, right? So I love it, right? And it's basically it's burying the country in debt. $1 trillion a year. So, think about that. $1 trillion a year being treated right now for chronic disease in our country, where there is no drug known by me at this particular time that cures the cause of chronic disease. None. These drugs are only treating the symptoms of chronic disease, right? So, that's where all our money's going. Chasing symptoms. Nobody's looking for the cause because the money's not in the cause. The money's in the symptom, right? Check this out. Greater than 80% of all chronic diseases is a metabolic origin. Diet or lifestyle related. 80%. That's actually in the world. We talked about this on several of the podcasts. So when you look at the majority of all these, it means it's lifestyle or it's diet. But yet, here's the thing: less than 1% of the U.S. healthcare budget is spent on metabolic and lifestyle research. Sad? No. To me, it's criminal. That's the good old American way. Just for reflection, though, he talked about this. In the 1960s, before your time, Chris, maybe slightly before yours, we as a nation spent $0 on treating chronic disease. So from 0 to 1 trillion in 50 years. Come on, man. It's got to light you up like a beacon, right? Not only that, though, back then, most everybody was skinny. And they ran around and they were fit.
Yeah.
Were they eating good? Well, better than they are today, obviously, right? 0 chronic diseases. Okay. So, can you now comprehend why a change in the CDC and the federal government's relationship with corporate food and healthcare must be investigated, my friend? I do. So, again, make America healthy again. Maha. Get on with it.
I think COVID probably was
with it.
I think COVID was probably like a big reason that a lot of people have actually started to question the CDC. Because
that was a major switch right there.
Yeah, RFK was always like, he's always been like that. You know, he's always fighting for the underdog, like what he did with the Roundup lawsuits and all that. But like, so he's always been like that. But I'd say general population.
Though, there's not more of him though. But go ahead.
Well, right. A lot of general population. But then it happened with COVID, and then a lot of people. You had like certain people like, no, I'm not taking the shots, and then all of a sudden you had, I think, with how the difference between California and how all the businesses, I think a lot of the small businesses that shut down from the CDC's rules and stuff and laws, and then how like Florida kind of thrived even though they went against a lot of the like recommendations from the CDC. I think that's when people were like, okay, they kind of just told us stuff without knowing. It's like, well, they were guessing. That's true.
Well, you know, the herd immunity, they denied that. They claimed the mask worked. All this stuff came out.
Common sense will tell you a mask doesn't work. Yeah. Germs are in the air. You think you're taking it off, you're putting it on. What are we talking about?
Well, at the same time, though, they were telling you stay out of church, stay out of group gatherings, stay out of family gatherings during the holidays, stay away from the football stadiums. But yet you could go and riot for Antifa or whatever other group you wanted to, and nobody was breaking those up.
Did
right?
you
Back
see
in
the videos? There was one video in particular I'm thinking of, and it was like Congress was meeting, and they like none of them had their masks on. They're like, all right, we're taking a picture, guys. Everybody put your mask on. They put the picture, and like someone leaked that video, and it was like, how did like everyone that agreed with that, once they saw that, how were they not turned immediately? They were just like, oh, what do you mean? What are you talking about? They're the people telling you to wear the mask and get the shot and all this stuff.
Well, you had Pelosi
do as I say,
her hair done without her mask.
That one,
you had a governor out in California. He had some kind of function where nobody was wearing a mask. Some
like a birthday party
AOC's
or something.
Partying down in Miami without her mask.
She was partying, yeah. She's actually she's one of the people. She's one of the people that like on the far left that like seems a lot worse than she is. I think there's a video of he's a congressman from or senator or something from Tennessee, and I forget his name. Tim Burch, I think, is his name. Yeah,
that sounds fun.
And it's a video of him and AOC, and he goes, "Don't look in her eyes, guys. She'll snatch your soul." And then they're like laughing together. So everyone thinks they're enemies, but they're all like friends. You know what I mean? They're just like they're just colleagues, really.
And like then a bunch of attorneys.
And, exactly. I mean? And then he's
which
like,
I do believe they are.
Yeah. And then he goes, "Have a good weekend, Cortez." She's like, "You too, see you Monday, bye." And it's like they're arguing on TV, and then they're going and getting a burrito. Like they're best friends.
Sounds like the divorce attorneys downtown. Oh, not that I've been there a time or two. I couldn't go there. But I feel you. But anyway, so I wanted to pass that around because that's some wild stuff going. It's good to see, though. Bring this stuff out, put it in the light, let people make their own decision, because that's what I find this is that the fear of just not being aware and not being informed is one of the things when it comes to people's health that I think is the most frustrating thing. And I write about that in that first book, Light Your Fire, as well. I think that that's where a lot of people's stress comes from, because they just don't know what to believe anymore, especially when they see these kind of outcomes and you see the CDC performing this kind of stuff. And it's time. You got to turn it around. I mean, because what are we in national? I mean, in global healthcare, like in the 30s or something, right? Where it's embarrassing.
We're not ranked high in a lot of stuff.
Well, and then even look at the GLPs that we were talking about, right? The Ozempic and the rest of these semaglutides. They were made for America, the obese American. That's us. We're running, and then $1 trillion.
Yeah.
In treatment of chronic disease, which they have no treatment for, people.
Are they considering obesity?
No cure for.
Is obesity, do they put that in with chronic disease?
Yes, diabetes goes right in there because, yes.
But like obesity, just obesity, not the causes of, or whatever, correlation.
Well, if you think about obesity, again, what do we got? We got an eating disorder here for the most part, right?
But will they throw that into that one, like say if somebody put someone on Ozempic, is that going into the $1 trillion
As you're saying, I don't know. But here again, let's look at it. That's very interesting. But what is that doing to your and my insurance rate?
Well, I told you about my buddy. Because we're treating these chronic issues. Buddy, he goes, my work pays for mine, but I still got to pay for my wife's, which is $700. It would be $1,400.
Yeah. And so you're splitting that $1 trillion between us people, right?
I don't think he's ever been to the doctor. ever.
No, he hasn't. I hear you. I mean, that's what I say too. Hey, the secret to affording it is not needing it, right? But we're 1 trillion. Somebody's spending some serious money, and again, somebody's making some serious money as well, not to get somebody healthy, because again, we're looking chronic, right? So we're dealing with chronic. You asked me about the autonomic disorder. That went through the roof about the same time as type 2 diabetes. So these are correlated with sort of the same thing. And we go back to the food group there because remember that pyramid started about that time, and everything was high carb.
High carb. What's funny is I literally was just about to, right before you said high carb, low fat, I literally was just watching a clip from a podcast, and they were talking about how, I forget what it was, but it was like a high fat diet decreased Alzheimer's risk by like something crazy. It wasn't like 50%, but it was like 30 or 40. It was something really high.
Well,
it was closing in on half.
Yes, so that's what they know. When they go into the keto diet, has also been shown to reverse grand mal seizures as well. Matter of fact, there was a movie done by Meryl Streep on that very thing, right? So you're improving cognitive function. The other thing for the Alzheimer's, I think we mentioned one time, was the medium chain triglycerides of the coconut oil, and reversing that process as well. So we're looking at fats, though, again. So we got to get fats back into the country. And about that same time, we were also talking about how, everybody was on the low-fat diet, and we didn't have this thing in the 60s and 70s like we're talking about here. So all these diets started in the 80s, and again, my girlfriends back then, the diet was not to eat. Right, that went on for a while, and then we went to, it's just crazy stuff. So fat is necessary for proper hormone function. So if you go on a low-fat diet, look at how many of these cases of the weight gain that occurred into the women in their 30s and 40s that you can directly correlate with hormonal dysfunction or dysregulation, if you will, due to the low-fat diet and the high carb. The high carb also elevates what? The estrogens. So, and fat, ladies, does not make you fat because it can't, because it doesn't raise insulin. So that's another podcast for another time, or one that we've already done if you want to follow up on some of the past episodes. But, again, we're looking at a situation where it's enough already. And I'm glad to see that they're finally bringing some stuff out because they've been in office now for 9 months, right? So let's start hearing stuff daily like this. This was good stuff, right? And then when you watch the particular congressmen who are yapping about it, just follow the money, honey. Check their pockets. Who's been lacing those?
Yeah,
right?
I think they're public records. Yes. You can go to their campaign funds.
And this is where they found these numbers
and
from
YouTube.
These guys. And the people that were fussing the most were the ones that were coming out with the $1 million, $2 million, $4 million contributions from their friends at Big Pharma.
Real quick,
Yep.
I was on the phone with my buddy earlier. The one that actually, I was just saying, has the high health insurance that never goes to the doctor, real healthy. I was like telling him, I was looking at buying half a cow, like cleaning out the deep freezer and doing that. And he was like, up in my red meat a ton. He was like, be careful with cholesterol. And I was like, that's a myth. Shut up. But I couldn't think of like why it was a myth at the time, other than just telling him it was stupid. And so I was gonna get you to refresh it real quick, but like in a shortened way to where I would remember it and I could tell him it because I'm going to see him later. And so I want to have that fresh on my mind.
That hypothetical thing that cholesterol is associated with fat consumption, right? And remember that if you increase cholesterol within your diet, the body's naturally going to regulate its own through the liver, right? So again, to consume cholesterol, and when you look at anything, like I say, in nature, where God's created a product with cholesterol on it, like an egg, it has the antagonistic for the cholesterol and lecithin to offset it, to make it irrelevant, right? So this is where, when you look at the elevation of your dangers, if there is a danger, certainly cholesterol, in my opinion, nobody's business, all right? LDL's of very, very little interest whatsoever. The coup. So for him, the two things are triglycerides, and that correlation with the HDLs if you balance out those two, but also the VLDL, the very low density lipid, that is brought up by the same thing that brings up the triglyceride, which is the sugar and the carbohydrate. So it doesn't have anything to do with the meat and fat. So the doctors who will push the low-fat diet for the cholesterol patient, it's an oxymoron. What you do is you cut the carbohydrates out because there's no correlation with most people who are carnivore eaters have extremely low or under control cholesterol as long as their hormones are intact, because most every cholesterol related issue is actually a hormone issue that needs to be taken care of first, because what makes hormones? Cholesterol. So as we get older, or today, like we were talking about here with the low T, right, the low testosterone already in males year after year, check the cholesterol on them as well, because it's going to go up, because its job is physiologically is to make more hormones. So why does that doctor want to suppress that? Take care of the hormones. The cholesterol will take care of itself 90+% of the time. So again, think more your buddy. The correlation between the protein, and the reason why they say the meat is because what most meat is what? Well, it's usually associated with the fat, because if you're eating a cow, for example, and you're eating that steak, what's it bound with? The fat that trims it, right? So that old theory of cut back on that, you're going to lower cholesterol. There's no proof to that whatsoever scientifically. You can't put that together. It's hypothetical, and they run with it. They put it in the media, and there you go. And guess what it does? Keeps somebody in business, because it keeps that carb diet high in that individual, right? Mm-hmm. And so he's going out. Doctor says, you got to go run a mile every day, get some exercise, blah, 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 cut back on your meats. And so what does he do? Well, he goes and does all that running, comes back 3 months later, but he's eating a high-carb diet, and the doctor goes, well, that didn't lower your cholesterol, so I guess we're going to put you on this statin for a lifetime and eat whatever you want. Anyway, so that's for your friend there. That's that correlation between the meat. I know I got carried away a little bit because, I'm like that sometimes. But that one just agitates me. So one day we're just going to do a podcast on only that. I might blow a stack on cholesterol. Yeah. So, brother, let's end this one with, don't forget to opine, and also hit the bell, do the other stuff. What is that? And where do we go? That's it. Subscribe. Any information you want or anything that you need from us, you can, supplementation-wise, go to the...
It's in the description of every episode.
So. Got it. Yeah, that's right. Every episode. So you can find us there. And until next time, stay consciously aware of your awareness of your consciousness. And until next time, have yourself a great day. Cameron, you do the same.
So you ain't missing one.
So you ain't missing one. Thank you, brother. Ciao for now.